Cinder, a remix of Dark Souls 3 by Rotaka. Folks, you know what that song means.
You know, sometimes I need a reminder.
Yeah,
What does it mean?
that's true. I think it means we're doing this monthly thing that we may have been doing for a while. What's
Most
it
of a
called
decade, maybe?
again? Most of a decade. You're right.
I am right. It's round 103, Ascension.
Whew.
Possibly foreshadowing a thing that Tom is very familiar with me talking about this entire month now, but it's for later.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, welcome everybody. I am MrBond.
And I'm Tormod.
And this is Insert Credits Round 103. This is a podcast or a stream or whatever kind of media you happen to be consuming at the time whilst listening to us, where we talk about the video games. We do some news first, then we listen to some tunes, and we talk about what we've been playing since last time, then more tunes, and then we do some design at the end with no notes, really. We used to use notes for the design stuff, but we decided to stop doing that as of like 9 rounds ago.
Something like that.
Has it been a full year yet? I don't remember now. But
yeah, it's a fantastic idea because it makes one, it makes it more interactive live on stream. Two, it means that I have to prepare fewer notes. That's the best.
That is kind of good. Yeah. And three, you get some real weird ass ideas sometimes.
And sometimes it's not porn.
Sometimes, only sometimes. Look, that one time when we had to make, it wasn't porn necessarily, but we had to make an erotic game. Hey, that one turned out okay.
For what it was, I don't even remember the premise anymore, to be honest with you, but I remember thinking, you know what, we can ship this.
Right?
There was a pun there.
It wasn't, I get it. It wasn't bad. The vague memories I have about it were something about like 90s-ish and like vacation resort Motel 6 type thing or whatever. Oh man, I don't know.
Oh, was that the like horror monster dating sim thing?
No, I think that might have been something different. It was like some early 90s internet message board mystery solving thing or dating. Was it a date? It might have been a dating sim too.
I think there was a dating sim thrown in there. Yeah.
Are we thinking of two different erotic games that we made?
I played in the fifth on that.
Oh, I don't know, man.
Ooh.
Whatever. It all just kind of melts together. But the fact that it was slightly on the spicy side sticks out for sure. But anyways, welcome everybody. Let's do some housekeeping first here. Round 104 is set up for July 15th, it looks like. Dead center over the month.
Yep, that was pretty easy to do.
Yep, and then 105 for August, looks like August 12th.
Yep.
And then that means we can get to 106. Looks
also like, very conveniently in the middle of the month.
Yeah, 16th. Seems good, huh?
Sounds great.
All right. Insert credits round 106.
Ooh, we can dedicate that one to Boris.
Okay. I'll have to ask why later.
It'll be Boris's birthday the day after.
Oh, really? I'm on the wrong calendar for that stuff. Otherwise, I would have seen it.
That's
okay. Whatever. Cool. I definitely remembered that. So cool. All right. We are 3 shows out. That is good. No other housekeeping to take care of, I don't think, unless you've got something. If not, we can move right into Around the World. Some news stuff.
As clean as it's gonna be.
Excellent. So it's always a running joke that you can play Doom on anything, right? You can play Doom on a computer. Okay, that's pretty mundane and boring. You can play Doom
on a pregnancy test.
You can play Doom on a pregnancy test. All right, that's a little more exciting. You can play Doom on a printer. All right, also pretty exciting. And now, as if to come full circle, you can now play Doom on a PC's BIOS.
What?
In the very opening stages, as a PC is booting up nowadays, you can now play Doom on the BIOS. As of Core Boot 4.17, which is a BIOS package for mostly open source stuff, mostly free and open hardware type things, there is now a BIOS payload that you can load up, which has Doom in it, and you can play it right from the BIOS.
Does it configure your hardware?
I don't know. All I know is that it's a BIOS payload that you can load up during that stage of the PC boot sequence, and it loads Doom, and you can play it.
Oh wait, so is it like an EFI module then, or what?
That's a good question.
Okay,
Let me see if I can glean that very quickly from the article I saw it in.
that'd be pretty cool.
Adding in Core Doom as a core boot payload, port of the 1993 Doom game running a top core boot. Renders directly to a linear frame buffer and loads the WAD game data files. Oh my goodness. Only PS2 keyboards are supported right now. No USB keyboard support. So a few limitations. But that's fun and cool that people are consistently loading Doom on things it probably has no right to be on. But hey, we'll go with it. Other sort of release related news. Marble Madness 2 was a not very well received sequel to Marble Madness, which was arguably very well received 30-ish years ago. Very few arcade cabinets have been maintained since then, but now, thanks to a leak, it is now more widely available as a ROM that you can play with. Kind of the weird thing about Marble Madness 2 as a sequel is that it got rid of the trackball as a control scheme and used a standard joystick, which seems kind of weird. Like, Marble Madness is one of those titles that demands the use of a trackball to be
it's a
super
giant
good.
marble.
Right? Exactly. Like, of all the games that use trackballs, like, maybe the other really well-known one is, maybe Missile Command is a pretty well-known one for trackballs. Crystal Castles, again, known for trackballs. And of course, Marble Madness.
Any arcade bowling.
Right? Any arcade bowling. A lot of the Golden Tee games had the trackball controls for the backswing and the follow-through and all that.
Yep.
But you can't have Marble Madness without a trackball. Well, Marble Madness 2 tried it without a trackball. And it was not well received. Maybe that's why. But now we've got a ROM of it to play with, which is cool. And yeah, it's available wherever you might find ROMs. Of course, only grab it if you've got a legal backup copy, yada, yada, yada. We would never recommend downloading ROMs if you do not have the original PCBs or cartridges or whatever the game happens to come on. Other release news. Another large update to Minecraft has just been released on the 7th of June. The Wild update. Which includes more biomes, more mobs, more blocks, more resources, more secrets, etc., etc., etc. I did boot it up just a little bit ago, actually, a couple days, and it holds the same thing it always does for Minecraft for me. I make a little home base, and then I either die and then say, well, nuts, I'll start a new world, or I just ignore it for a while.
Yeah, sounds like Minecraft.
So, yeah, I haven't gotten any of the new content in it yet, but it is nice to see that they're still updating stuff. I did see a notification on the launcher, in fact, that if you own Minecraft the Java edition or Minecraft Bedrock, you get the opposing release of it for free now.
Yeah,
which is neat. That's cool. Like, I have no real reason to boot up Windows to download Bedrock Edition or Windows Edition or whatever the heck it's called, because Java Edition works just fine.
That Windows 10 edition is?
I guess
it's in my Microsoft store, just kind of chilling.
Right? Yeah. Well,
now thing I allegedly own.
So now you can get the Java Edition for free.
Well, I already had a license courtesy of you from 2010.
Oh God, 2010? That long ago already? Fudge.
Yeah.
Why are we measuring time spans in decades now? We need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Oy. Well, no matter. Well, on to some slightly less good news, depending, but not nearly as bad a news as we've covered in the past, too. Nintendo is shutting down the 3DS and Wii U eShops, soon, March of 2023. But you still have time to add eShop points to your account. And you can only do that now until about August of this year through physical eShop points cards you buy from other retailers. You could have still added it directly by buying eShop points directly from Nintendo, but that shut down on the 23rd of May, so shortly after last show. But, if there's some 3DS or Wii U eShop titles you want, you still have a way to add funds to get them. Supposedly, you'll still be able to play things you've already purchased off of either shops. They're not shutting down entirely. You just won't be able to buy new stuff as of March 2023. Which is unfortunate. That's kind of how things go, though, when things are online only. No physical media, no way to play shit when all those servers go down, yada, 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 yada.
Mhm.
Makes preservation a real bitch. And you wonder why people turn to ROMs and emulators and all that sort of thing. But hey, what do we know? On the weirder side of the scale, good old France, the country of France, has banned English language terms esports and streaming from their governmental communications. Apparently, and I know this through an associate of who lives in Canada. Apparently, the French are very protective of terms they allow into their language. So, no esports, no streaming in French government communications, just in case people cared about that. I just thought it was silly.
I want to see government-sponsored esports.
Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Should governments be involved in
whatever the French term is for that, sorry.
Oh, right. Shoot, let me pull up the article. I think they give an example of what they're supposed to be using.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's like électronique jouage
yeah,
or something like that.
I'm going to murder these pronunciations as well. Other terms that are banned are streamer and cloud gaming, which are to be called, respectively, Joyer animateur en direct and jeu vidéo en nuage. For streamer and cloud gaming, I guess.
French is that one romance language that I can never fucking figure out how to pronounce phonetically, right? So sorry.
I mean, to me, and apologies to any speakers of the French language, I just kind of go kind of soften all the combo vowels and kind of put a little on it. And to me, that's French. But please, by way of recompense, please make fun of me mercilessly for being a dumb American. Like, I will own that shit 100%.
I mean, same.
Like, I don't care. Like, you want to make fun of me for being American, go nuts. Like, I won't front you for that.
We honestly deserve it.
We do. We really do. And that's kind of the deal. So that's why I don't feel bad about thinking other languages are funny, because they are. Yeah. Every language is funny. Every language has got their weird things. And French happens to have this weird banning of English terms. So, okay. Whatever.
French does happen.
Yeah. But anyways, that's all the news I got. I decided not to go into the more negative stuff because, hey, we all read the news. We're all in this world. It's all kind of garbage. Why not focus on the silly and the good stuff?
Yeah.
So on to you. What do you got?
Sometimes the garbage is funny.
Right.
A thing I read earlier today that I didn't write down because it was just garbage. So Activision Blizzard found that Activision Blizzard didn't do anything wrong with the sexual harassment allegations.
Right. Yeah. In an independent in an independent study commissioned by Activision Blizzard.
Cough, cough. Yeah. So, yeah. Yep. That's as much as I got on that one. Bobby, please go away forever and ever. Yeah. So apparently 2023 is going to be kind of a bitch and a year for games. There's a lot of stuff coming out and a lot of things that were announced just in the last few days, of which include a remake of Resident Evil 4 that apparently looks super, super good. The Last of Us 2 is getting a remake that changes a lot of the models, I guess. Same thing with RE4. I guess that's the remake. Side note of the side note. But so Final Fantasy VII's remake has come out for PS4. The Intergrade was released on PS5, and now it's finally coming to PC today, actually. So yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade has been released. It is on Steam, allegedly. I think I found the Steam page for it, courtesy of Other Tom, yesterday. Alongside that announcement, the next installment of the Final Fantasy Remake trilogy, called Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, was announced, releasing on, of course, the PS5 next winter in 2023. We'll see if they actually hold to that, but they've had quite some time to develop that by now, so they're probably like maybe halfway done, in theory, with that cadence. In theory. Let's see here. Another game releasing next year, Hollow Knight Silksong.
Yay.
And it'll be on Xbox Game Pass on launch. So allegedly that's going to be on both the PC Game Pass and the Xbox Game Pass. So that's kind of neat.
I guess so. I hope that
Let's
leaves Game Pass sooner rather than later, because I'm not getting Game Pass just to play Hollow Knight. Even though I like it. I mean, I like the original game. That was great. And I'm waiting for Silksong. But I'm not going to get Game Pass just to play Silksong.
Well, I don't think it's going to be like an exclusive or anything. I didn't
Oh,
see anything
good.
about that. So it
Okay.
might release simultaneously in other marketplaces. Other things that are coming out. Well, Todd Howard. Is it another Skyrim release? Let's roll the dice. No, allegedly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's been revealed that Fallout 5 will release after The Elder Scrolls 6, which will happen eventually.
Great. Perfectly vague.
However, a new IP was announced called Starfield, a game that was heavily inspired, allegedly, by FTL and MechWarrior. So unlike Outer Wilds, cough, this game isn't loaded in all the time. You can't just like go between things without loads. The planets aren't always there in memory. Sadness. I guess tell us now, maybe under promise and over deliver later.
Hey, that'd be all right.
Used to it by now. But yeah, Starfield coming. Gameplay stuff was released. Obviously Fallout 5 and Elder Scrolls 6 were teased in there as well. Well, another game came out recently. The Blizzard pay to win Diablo Immortal. So Metacritic has their reviewer aggregate score of like 60 something. It now is the proud owner of the lowest user score on Metacritic ever of a, guess the number.
Well, I can see it right in front of me, but I'm going to say, for the sake of playing this game, I'm going to say 2.
It's a tenth of that.
Whoa. They go below 0. Or not 0, duh. They go below 1?
Yes.
Wow.
So it is possible to rate a game a 0. And yeah, they have proved that average ratings can go below 1 out of 10, or out of 100 rather, with a 0.2.
Ouch.
GG. Y'all have phones, right? I'm never gonna let them live that down.
Well, good. As well, you shouldn't.
Y'all have wallets, right? Yeah. So I heard some story where a guy spent $10,000 on pay to win stuff and didn't get some rare gem or something like that. And he just wanted to see if it would happen for the lulz accordingly. Yeah, cough, cough. Yeah, totally not probably disappointed that you wasted $10,000, but whatever.
So you're saying he paid, but he did not win.
Correct.
Wow, incredible.
So maybe in that case, it isn't a pay to win game. That was a Velociraptor moment there. Well, one other thing I've got here. So, you know him, you love him, Hideo Kojima. Working with Sony on another game? Yeah, actually, maybe not this time. Kojima, first time in ever? ? Partnering with Xbox. What the hell?
Curious.
To make something he's, quote, always wanted to make, unquote. Which, of course, pissed off the Sony fanboys. And apparently they were doing their damnedest to cancel the Xbox platform, cancel him, cancel the game. Like, good lord.
Oh boy.
Kojima came back a day or two saying, I'm not abandoning Sony, you dickwads. So, yeah. But Tom's right. 2023 is the year of the Game Pass, it really seems, because they got a whole lot going on for them. Everybody was starting to worry that at the beginning half of 2022 here, they didn't really have a whole lot happening. And then Tunic and stuff. And like, obviously indie games are huge on Game Pass, but they're still getting some pretty decent AAA stuff. Like, it's pretty good value. We'll say that. I've gotten a lot of use out of it, much more than I ever got from PS Plus. Yeah, but we'll talk about my gaming stuff later. I think that's all my news.
So I did look up just to be sure about the Hollow Knight Silk Song. It is not just releasing on Game Pass, which makes me happy. It
Good.
looks to be a simultaneous or more or less simultaneous release on Switch, Xbox Series X and Series S through Game Pass, Microsoft Windows through Game Pass as well, and then of course Linux and Mac OS and Macintosh operating systems, I guess.
I'm gonna suggest something here too. So obviously games get released on Game Pass for free occasionally. It's kind of a promotion. It's a thing they do. If you do like a game on Game Pass and you want to support the developer, you can buy the game even though it's free on Game Pass, and they'll give you a 20% discount.
Oh, nice. That's
so there
sick.
are some things that Vlad and I have played that have disappeared off of Game Pass, but we definitely need to purchase to get back into it. I'm looking at you, Gungeon.
So after they leave Game Pass, do you still get that 20% discount if you purchase it after the fact? Having already played it on Game Pass?
That's just a flat discount on everything they sell on the Xbox store.
Okay.
So let me actually just validate that real quick here, because I can pull up ye old Xbox app on my Windows PC, which is not something I thought was going to exist before Windows 10, but here we are. Let's look here. Not my library. I want to look at Game Pass. All right, let's see here. What the hell is this? Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge.
Oh, yeah.
When did that come out?
Very recently, and apparently it's quite good.
Well, it's free apparently, so I need to look at things that aren't on Game. Shit, that's free. Oh, let's see here. Picks for me. Ring of Pain. Sure. What the hell is that?
That sounds would be right up your alley.
Damn, though. Seriously, all these things are free. Why are they all free? I need to find something that's not free. Let's see here. Let's try World War Z. Why not? God damn it, that's free too.
What the hell?
Shit, this is all free.
They're just giving it away.
Buy something. All right, never mind. I can't look at all because it's all free. Maybe it's because I'm looking at the Game Pass tab. I'm a dumbass.
That could be. Try one of the other
store. Here we go. Store. No, I want to look. Damn. Well, we got a lot of sales going on right now. That's cool. Forza Horizon 5 and Sea of Thieves and Destiny 2. And all right, let's just choose one of these rando things here. How about Project Winter? Yeah. Doesn't say there's a Game Pass discount on this one, so maybe it is. Okay, but that one starts at $20. Has a really cool art style. Go look at it. It's apparently published by Other Ocean Group. Never heard of it. Now I have, though.
Could be good.
Ring of Pain is good? Okay. See, we've got Tom's endorsement on that
right,
game.
cool.
So there you go.
Like,
go
hey,
download it. It's free on Game Pass.
Listen, like word of mouth recommendations are extremely effective at passing games between your friends. It's like
absolutely. It has cards. How could it be bad? Yeah, you're right. I've been getting into
also true.
Card role-playing game things lately. Again, we'll get to that soon.
It's like usually you hang out and enjoy stuff with people who have similar tastes, and sometimes your tastes aren't too similar, but usually when they recommend it, it's like, hey, at least I'll try it out, and if you like it, hey, that recommendation worked. If you don't like it, it's like, all right, well, try something new. So
the only thing that's not free about it is the disk space it takes. And apparently with Game Pass, you can just do Xbox Cloud Gaming for free now too, so maybe you don't even have to spend that.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've learned a whole lot of stuff this month, but anyway, I can share that later.
The other funny I wanted to make when you were doing your new stuff earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt you, was that we're getting another Resident Evil 4 remake. Like, what is this, like the third remake by now? Third or fourth one?
Leon just keeps getting prettier and stupider.
Which, okay, fine. Like, he's a pretty man, but like, the game itself, like, how many different times can they remake this before people are enough? I guess they're still going with Skyrim, so whatever.
I will forever quote somebody who went to college with us regarding RE4. This was the GameCube release.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see the dogs. I can only hear them barking.
I thought that was you that said that.
No,
no,
that was a
this
quote
is somebody
from someone
else. Oh man,
that and fucking bear traps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were difficult to see in that particular version of the game because it's brown on brown.
Yes.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it was running in 480i. Like,
right?
that's what you get.
And that was
Oh,
one of
heck.
the remakes. So like, what?
Was it really?
I
Oh,
think
shit.
so. Yeah, it wasn't originally, or maybe it was just a port at that time, but it was not originally on the GameCube.
What the hell? Oh, was it PS2?
It might have been. Now we're gonna look
I
that up
think
just
that,
to be sure.
yeah. Okay. Shit. I want to. Okay, you look at that article and tell me how many releases of RE4 there've been.
Oh, let's see.
It's
here.
got to be up there with Skyrim.
Oh no, there's a more link to it, which makes me a little bit suspicious.
I will say though,
Holy
Leon,
shit!
dumb as bricks, very pretty, very much has become the definition of a himbo. Just saying, it's there.
Okay, so maybe these aren't all remakes necessarily, but here's the list of platforms that RE4 is on.
Okay.
GameCube, PS2, Microsoft Windows, Wii, iOS, Zeebo, I don't know what the hell Zeebo is, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Android, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and Oculus Quest 2.
Okay, so by its nature of being on Xbox One, it can be played on the Series S and X.
So there you go. There's another 2 platforms. Oh, and I was wrong. The original release of RE4 was on GameCube.
Wow. Okay.
At least timeline-wise, January 11th, 2005 in North America, slightly after that in Japan, and slightly after that in PAL region. And then the second platform was PS2, October 25 of 2005 for North America, etc., etc. Wow. All right.
Okay.
I thought the GameCube version was not the original. I thought it was a port. Well, cool. That's fine. I guess I can, give a pass to the invisible fucking bear traps in 480i then.
A bit of gaming history there too. Just saying, you're all learning something.
Exactly. Like we learn shit by doing weird Wikipedia dives and being like, "Oh, I remember this, but not entirely. Let's look it up."
Hey, guess what?
Oh boy, what?
By the time that's released, probably Leon's gonna be 18 years old.
Oh no. Oh no, why would you share this cursed knowledge with us?
Because if I feel old, you have to feel old too.
Oh no. Well, no, if it's no, yeah, you're right, 2023. I was thinking 2022 for some reason. Yeah. Oh boy. Oh no. Leon can drive.
Can vote.
Actually, Leon can already drive, and now Leon will be able to vote, and also
Leon can finally legally get those cigarettes.
Yeah, and go off and fight in a war too.
States.
So she's already been technically doing.
Well,
Good lord.
He's very selective. Don't worry about it.
But he'll still have the perfect fucking part in the middle or slightly off to the left or right, and he'll still be anime shiny or whatever. Oof.
Beautiful AF.
Okay, that's enough fawning over Leon as a beautiful man. How about some Toonskis?
All right. We'll kick the night off with Spooky Cassos by Rocco's. Rocco's? Oh, yeah.
You betcha.
From Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. Going into Temple of Time, Chanting Carillon by Woody MC from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and finishing with Vision of Hades by Rebecca E. Tripp from Chrono Cross.
All right. That was some good tune skis. Like, I feel like we don't call that out enough. We have some really good tune skis here. You can pretty much listen to every one of them at ocremix.org. And then we include direct links to them in the show notes as well. But pretty much, there's just enough new releases like in the month between shows that we can both get our 3 picks in for the Toonski sections, which is also
It's true.
pretty good.
And there's usually at least one from Rebecca E. Tripp.
Usually, it seems like that's been a running theme here for like the past 4 or 5 now. Is that wow, yeah. She's got some output.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, on to section 2 here tonight. What have we been playing since last time? A lot, I hope.
Actual games.
I know, that's great. That's perfect. Like, exactly. That's what we should be doing. We should be playing more games, worrying less, doing more cool shit like playing games.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Would you like to go first, or shall I start?
I can. You generally talk about your games more, but Vlad and I finally started It Takes Two. That's been on the 2 playlist for a while, and I had to coax myself into it. Surprisingly competent game, very fun. We only did the 1 session, but it was maybe a couple hours long.
So remind me on the general premise of that one. Is that the one where the 2 parents are transformed into dolls or whatever, and they have to try to get back to normal?
Yeah, so the premise of the story is basically they have a daughter, and she sees them fighting and basically approaching divorce, and she goes to her hiding place, her safe space, whatever, and begs for help and cries to herself, and a relationship advice book comes to life and transforms the parents into dolls and makes them work together to overcome their differences.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I know so far.
Is that the is that forced co-op then? You need 2 people to play it? Yes. Or okay. That actually that tracks.
It is a 2-player, must have 2 separate inputs going on at the same time. Maybe a talented person could do that all on their own, but yeah, it's definitely 2 sets of inputs.
Because I know A Tale of Two Brothers kind of did that same sort of thing too, but I think you could do it as one person because they limited the controls such that it was a twin stick almost, but each stick controlled each brother, and it was, I don't know. I thought maybe they had done something similar here, but it sounds like no. That's all right. Okay, proceed. Sorry, I just wanted to know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, no worries. So I don't know what came up in discussion with Tom, but Slay the Spire came up. I think I was talking about Game Pass stuff, and I was like, you know what? I have this game. I've downloaded it. I vaguely remember it being a dungeon crawler of some kind. And at one point, Tom actually played a round or 2 for me so I could see it, and I totally forgot after that. It was like back in February when I was traveling a whole bunch. So I booted it up, and I was like, you know what? Fine, whatever. I'll see if I can figure this out. And the game forces you into playing as the first character of 4 that you can play as the first time. You have to unlock progressive characters as you do clears with the ones before it. And it so happened that I actually cleared on my first playthrough with the Ironclad, and that was kind of neat. And that unlocked the Silent, and then I played that a bunch, and I liked that one's mechanics even more. And I eventually cleared on that one, and then I played as the Defect, was it? And then got a clear on that one, and finally, I think it was last week, I was on a call with Tom wrapping up a run with the Watcher, which is the 4th character, and that run just kind of died in a fire at the end, but I ended up starting another one and got it clear when I was on that call with Tom, so that was real neat. And on that same call, I ended up testing Xbox Remote Play and doing capture of that window from OBS so I could actually not have my Xbox hooked up to my stream PC so I can do captures. It was kind of neat. But I've since played a bunch. I did a couple of the dailies, actually cleared one of them. Been kind of casually playing off and on since, but got Vlad into the game, and Vlad has cleared with Ironclad, Silent, and Defect, and actually started clearing some of the Ascension levels with Ironclad. So that was neat. So we've both been playing a fair bit. I realized, like, as I looked at my playtime, about a week and maybe 10 days in, that I already had like 39 hours in the game, and I was like, holy shit, like, calm down a little bit. It's very easy to pick up and just like play a little bit and then put it away for a bit and then boot it back up again and pick up where you left off and all that. So um we played it enough to the point where Vlad got sick of the soundtrack and turned it off. Um but I did not, and I still listen to it when I play. So when he is out of the house, I will play it with the soundtrack on. Otherwise, I'll generally watch him play in the evenings and come up with some ridiculous strategies. Like, I think my favorite build so far, build in quotes, is Poison with the Silent. Because if you get the right cards, you can stack that shit with like over 200 damage a turn, and it's just really satisfying to watch things fall. But it's a really entertaining game. It made me realize that there are other games that are like it. Um, Dicey Dungeons being one of them, and that's also free on Game Pass right now. And yeah, that one that we just talked about that I'm looking for in the notes here, Ring of Pain. Apparently that's a card game too, so might have to look into that. The analog I thought of first when I was playing Slay the Spire was that IRL like paper card game Munchkin, because it was kind of a deck building game and you played RPG like elements in it. But
Sure.
No, it was really fun. It continues to be fun. There's obviously tons of ability there. So I've been doing a ton of that.
As it turns out, Slay the Spire is also Archipelago enabled. So if you ever want to throw a seed or 5 of that into the next go of it we do, just let me know.
Yeah, sure. I'm kind of curious how that works because you're not guaranteed to win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure either. Tom could probably tell you more than I could since he's played a few for our various multi-worlds, but
that could be very fun.
It does cross. If you don't win your run, it does cross multiple runs, so it's not like if you lose, that's it.
Okay.
But you unlock different draws and different boss cards, I think, or something like that. I don't know.
Cool. No, I'd be down for that. That's a little less stressful than the like actually having to be good at Link to the Past.
You don't actually have to be good at Link to the Past. I mean, it helps, but you don't have to be good.
Sure. With that. Trying to clear a seed with all my items, and I'm still in like the back half of Dark World. Like, okay, can I be done now? Yeah. But no, Slay the Spire. Now that I know that's an archipelago, that seems like a thing we could probably hop in on at some point. So hot knowledge. Oh, let's see here. Other things that we've been playing in the meantime. Firewatch. That was a single session game that we both sat and played through and kind of tossed ideas back and forth as to like, okay, where should we go next? What kind of dialogue options should we choose for the very beginning of the game? That kind of thing. But that was an interesting experience. I definitely had some correct guesses early on. Then I started doubting myself, and then I realized I was correct from the get-go, so that was kind of neat. Have you played the game?
I have not. No. All I know is the very distinctive art style that Campo Santo is known for.
It's very pretty. I honestly liked pretty much all of it. It played very well. Performance was great. It's free on Game Pass. You'll notice a theme here. But yeah, no, it's worth the, I don't know, like 3 or 4 hours that you can throw into it. It's a nice adventure. It's not quite as much a walking simulator as like Dear Esther or something like that, but it's very much driven by a narrative.
Sure. Okay.
Outer Wilds, another game, again, Game Pass. Very pretty. As I mentioned earlier, the whole game was just loaded in at the same time. Because of that, it's a very seamless experience. It encourages a lot of exploration, clue collecting, things like that. You mentioned you hadn't played that one yet, right?
I have not, no.
Okay. I'm not going to really talk a whole lot about what the premise is, but it's it's very pretty. It has a lot of things to uncover, and with various bits and pieces how you go about them, you can probably postulate certain things earlier than others, but who knows? Very nice. The soundtrack is fairly minimal, but it builds on itself in fun ways, so that's neat. It's definitely worth the time. Also, after completing it, um, definitely would make for very interesting speedrun categories. So if you're looking for a game that you can both play casually and like actually really enjoy everything going on in it, you get that experience. But once you know what's going on, you can absolutely speedrun that game. So it's real cool in that regard. And then finally, and I know you're going to be talking a lot about this one too, Tunic. Played the demo while we were visiting you at one point. That game is beautiful. It has a fantastic soundtrack. Finji just knocked it out of the park with that. Um, I have not been at the helm for that one. That one's been Vlad, but we've definitely solved many a puzzle together. We have figured out the language. So
Oof.
I was very happy that he had more patience than I. Definitely had a notepad and pen at handy all the time, writing things down. Eventually pieced it together and had the aha moment and finally started having a flood of information. Really, really, really good. Um, we have not beat the game yet. I'm gonna leave that there because I know information that others don't. But we are essentially 100%ing as much as we can. So it's been interesting and challenging. We are slowly crossing things off our list, and it's been enjoyable. I look forward to wrapping that one up insofar as we can, and curious what happens, I guess. I have ideas, but I don't know for sure. But there's a lot left in that game for us to piece together, and I'm looking forward to the process.
As well you should.
Oh yeah. Like we've convinced, I don't know, like 5 or 6 friends to play the game. Some of them have streamed it for us. We have a couple that we met down here in Austin who actually comes over occasionally, and one of the two has been convinced to play the game live in front of us, and like it's fun watching him piece things together because he is a security researcher and
okay.
has the finding patterns thing down and has had a lot of very, very strong inferences already, but hasn't really like honed in on it yet. So it's been really interesting watching him like both explore the world because he's used to looking for things that aren't, right in front of you, but also reading all of the signs and what the NPCs are saying. And the critical thought process there is a lot different than the way that we approached it, in that he went in with the motivation to find out what the language is about from the get-go.
Interesting.
So very interesting. I'm really hoping that we can reconnect with those two. They just finished moving up actually closer to us, so they're only like 10 minutes away now, so it's even easier to guilt them into coming over and having dinner with us and forcing him to play the game for 4 hours again. Yeah, good times.
I'm guessing he doesn't have as much of a gaming background as perhaps you or I do.
I don't believe so. Though I'm not really sure. All I've really known is that he has been finishing security certifications, recently actually found a job in the field, has been getting kind of readjusted there, and they both just moved, and So their lives have been very busy, but yeah, like I guess he hasn't really used Xbox a whole lot because it was interesting trying to get him signed in so that he could have a persistent game save for Tunic, and like recovering a Xbox Live account from like 10 years ago and that whole process. So, but it's on Xbox now and he can come over and play the game. It's bueno. So I look forward to that. Tunic is such a joy to watch people play. Especially if they really like force themselves through places they shouldn't be yet and actually have some luck with it. That's kind of fun. Imagine not being able to see things.
Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, sure is.
Totally a thing that you didn't do.
No,
but
not at all.
Now, to be clear, like I only have had the time to catch up on like your first or second stream of the game, but you kind of really figured things out from what I've heard. Like, seeing as this is my last game, how about that lovely segue into your Tunic experience?
I will restrain myself from saying too much about it because I don't know where you are at, really.
Okay.
Because you said you haven't completed the game or whatever it was. So I will do my best not to spoil anything because it is a very good experience. But yeah, that is what I've worked on the past 4 weeks. I'm complete with it so much to the fact that I won't be streaming it anymore. I kind of stopped at the point where I needed to start learning the language.
Sure.
Because, you know, as fun as that would be for me to do, I don't think sussing that out on stream with large gaps of me talking and not or thinking only and not really doing anything might not play as well.
Sure.
But I did go through several different phases of what I thought the language was and what it represented and how to decrypt it or whatever. And nice. I don't know enough about it to say which of those phases is correct or not, but I managed to get through pretty much every puzzle except for 2 without really needing hardcore knowledge of the language, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Cool.
And let's see, I got through, yeah, I guess that's all I can really say without risking spoiling something for you, which I don't want to do because it is a very good game.
There are 2 very late game puzzles that I know I know the premise for them. I don't have the knowledge for them yet. I know about there being distinct endings. We'll say that.
Okay.
We are familiar with that.
All right. Very good. Well, then I will say that I have completed 2 distinct endings. Okay. One of which involves going through one of those late game puzzles, which was essentially a full-on, like, for the 24 hours, literal 24 hours that I played that game, solving that puzzle was at hour 22.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Although I wasn't really aware that puzzle existed until maybe about hour 4, so it's really closer to, 15 to 20-ish hours. But I did have a pretty good inkling on it existing pretty early on. Because there was some non-Tunic language references to it, and then some very clearly Tunic language references to it, and then some very, well, I wouldn't say clear visual allusions to it, but it really depends on how you approach the game. Like your security-ish friend like has a very different approach versus us who have gaming backgrounds, know how games operate and be like, okay, this is either too well put together or not put together well enough that something's up with it, right? Like you can figure out like, okay, there's something to this pattern here, or hey, this lack of pattern here is a thing, or whatever. And it just takes a couple very subtle and not so subtle nudges in some areas to be like, oh, all right, wait a minute, this is a piece of something much larger. And suddenly, oh shit, these numbers mean this, and this number means that, and suddenly there's these 3 things in a group here, and oh crap, all right, Let me try to remember what I saw 10 hours ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, taking notes during the game is a good idea. Please do that. Please always do that. And screenshots if you can.
I really encourage you to figure the language out, because you can read the manual then, as long as it takes, because it's a process to go and actually translate it. But you'll realize how much was right in front of you the whole time.
Right. Yeah, I definitely know that a lot of the more, well, maybe not difficult puzzles, but the ones that I struggled with probably had the answers right there. And I just refused to translate it because it was not as engaging as just going through it with my normal process.
Sure.
So I do have some of the symbols, like I recognize them enough to say, like, oh, hey, this means north or south or east or west or whatever. And this means up, down, left, right, or, you know, basic stuff like that. Just none of the, like, I can't read full sentences of it.
So it's very obvious that you've figured out what the Holy Cross is.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That was probably the biggest early reveal moment, was like, oh shit, this has been a pattern everywhere. What the hell?
Yeah. When we finally pieced that one together, it was a very moment there. So yep.
And then things kind of unfolded from there too. It's just like, oh, okay, well, if this is a pattern, then this is a pattern. All right, well, that doesn't match the pattern from before, but the same thing gonna happen. So, and then you get to one of the end game puzzles, which is really, so it's like, you know.
I remember you stumbling into a puzzle in your first stream that you were so close to getting the idea, but you're like, huh, well, that's interesting, and you just left.
Yeah, I probably said something.
Figured it out.
I said something to the effect of, all right, well, let's put a pin in this and come back, blah, 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 blah.
Yep. I was just like, holy shit, this is happening. It's happening. Yeah. It very close to happen, though. That was so good. So speaking of things like that, in a room with some items in it, I think we're only lacking 2. So it's either 2 or 3, but last time we played, we figured one out now that we had some knowledge, and we were like, oh yeah, that's that.
Very good. Yeah, well, if you know the language, you probably have one of the ones that I still lack.
Okay.
For sure. Because that one came across as, hey, if you know the language, there's the directions on how to get it. Which, that one, I must shamefully admit, I looked up after the fact, because that's the only one I'm missing. And I'm like, damn it, I don't want this whole entire room to have this fucking missing item, sword thumb sticking out bullshit, right? So,
Yep.
So I looked it up, I'm like, damn. And it turns out I was about 90% of the way there, and I just missed one clue that I could have figured it out without knowing language, honestly, but
so
that's how it goes.
You did get them all?
I have not gotten the last one. I just looked up how to, like, what the last piece of the last one was, and I'm just like, shit.
Okay. I'm going to ask a question, and I have to think of my wording for this.
Okay.
To be sure that you aren't on that one. Well, obviously, you've had to go between night and day.
Well, about that, that's something I did not realize was a thing until the very last hour. I didn't realize that you could change day and night until the very last hour. And that led me to actually 2 of them that I could not previously get. But probably not the one that you're thinking of.
That's fair. We figured it out after wandering around and being like, oh, this is interactable now. Oh.
I never went back to see if it was interactable after a certain point. I tried to interact with it at first and it just said whatever. It's just like, oh, okay, well, I guess you can't do that. Fine. All right. And I never went back and checked it again.
Yeah, oops.
Yeah, well.
I can't really think of a good way to ask about it without potentially spoiling it. Damn.
Okay. Well, I think I might have a way then. The one that I am missing that but now know how to get is one that you would always only know how to get after solving one of the endgame puzzles.
Okay.
And getting the item associated with it. But anyways, Tunic, very fun game.
I was just kind of like, damn, what do I say now?
As we cryptically try to talk around each other so as not to spoil things. It's incredible.
It's so good.
I know, right? But anyways, before I played Tunic for 4 weeks, I finished up with Nex Machina, playing the progressively more difficult modes, cursing at Housemarque a fair number of times. The Housemarque is the developer of Nex Machina. Because, you know, in my mind, they have a bit of their heads up their own asses about twin sticks not being profitable or whatever. And it kind of shows with the design of that game being kind of visually not accessible. It's like, dudes, like, you guys are known for making, like, twin stick arcade shooters. How can you not make them clearer to see? Ugh. I don't know. Oops. Like, I have some beef with Housemarque because they are kind of like snooty. We can't make money with this anymore. It's like, dudes, no, you can. You just gotta make them fun like you do, but make them easier to see, please. Whatever. Housemarque. Good devs, but just kind of like, this snooty ass. Whatever. On the SBC side of things for Shmup Book Club, our shmup for the month of June is Kingdom Grand Prix, which is the weirdest mashup of vertical scrolling shmup and racing game that I've ever seen. It's a shmup in so much as you shoot things to get points, but you also have to race against 7 other NPCs to win a race. And the way to trigger the standard second loop in most shmups is to get some, like, you know, score threshold or other conditions while you're playing the game. In Kingdom Grand Prix, to trigger the second loop, you have to win the cup of races that you are participating in while playing the shmup. It's weird, but also kind of funny.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I would encourage everybody to play it just to see how ridiculous it is. But it's a fun shmup in its own regard. Also, it uses a lot of characters from a lot of other shmups made by Rising. So you recognize characters from like 3 or 4 different shmups that they've made. Which is also kind of fun because some of these characters have backstories that are established in those other games. And some of them our crew of SBC players just makes up lore for, so it's, you know.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
We also have our quarterly for April through June still going on. That's Dodonpachi. One of many entries in the Donpachi and Dodonpachi series. One of the more straightforward ones, actually. You still got to collect bees, you still got to destroy shit, and it's still, the loop is still based on a time loop. So if you loop the game once, you end up either going backwards or forwards in time and essentially playing the same game again, like most loops do. I don't know, there's some weird story reason for doing that too. And this one also has a recurring character in that same series that we always make fun of because he's such a shit. But sometimes you got to do that. If you play enough of these styles of games or enough of these games in the same series, you kind of get what's going on right away, and then you can be like, all right, it's this fucking guy again. So you just kind of go with that mindset. Outside of SBC, on my long plays during Sundays, I've been kind of sticking to shmups as well. Finished up with Zero Ranger for now. I ended up setting a new personal best score by a pretty reasonable margin. As well as actually doing a full complete on the white vanilla mode for Zero Ranger, which is the score attack mode, which I hadn't done before, which is pretty cool and fun. Raises some questions about the other mode in Zero Ranger as far as the storyline is concerned, which is very, maybe I'll go back and play that again and see what else I can figure out. In the meantime, I've re-picked up Jamestown to improve my scores on Gauntlet and Super Gauntlet. That's been fun. Music definitely takes me back. I can definitely know which part of the level I'm in based on the musical cues. That never left me. Uh, I'm still waiting for the actual OST release of the Jamestown Plus levels, though. I'm gonna have
Come
to.
on, Francisco.
I know. I'm gonna have to badger him a little bit more and say, like, "Hey, dude, like, you want some money? You just release this, and I will give you some money, okay?"
It's so good.
I know, right? It's really fucking excellent.
Like, I'm not a huge fan of shmups because they're frustrating for me, but I play it so I can listen to the music. Like, that's how good the music is. Come on.
It is quite good. And kind of the downfall of that approach, playing it to listen to the music, is that you don't hear like a good third to a half of the back half of the track, because it ends and it goes into the boss theme. So it's like, oh shit, a fucking massive orchestra of Croatoa, you don't hear the back half of it ever. Oh, and it's so good.
Yeah, so definitely get the soundtrack and listen to it if you're familiar with the game, because there are definitely parts of the songs throughout the levels that you'll never have heard before. Or there's some slight edits to them too, like you'll have heard it loop, but it'll not have played the full loop before it looped in some cases. So it's really good. Support the artist.
Please do.
Francisco
Cerda. He has a Bandcamp. Go buy his Bandcamp stuff. It's really good.
Do it.
Before whoever owns Bandcamp now fucks it over. Epic. That's right. Before Epic fucks Bandcamp over, go buy Bandcamp stuff. All right. So outside of the Sunday long play, I've played a few other things in between. I'm making my way through the Half-Life series again, actually.
Okay.
I played through OG Half-Life and the 2 added episodes, Blue Shift and Opposing Force. Still as good as I remember, even though they are now nearly 20 years old. I played the Black Mesa remake of the original Half-Life. That one was kind of nice. I will say that at the time, the Black Mesa is a remake of OG Half-Life with the Source engine. And that's already quite old in terms of, PC games as well, as far as that's considered. The player models and the NPC models in Black Mesa are sort of uncanny valley. Being from the Source engine, it kind of hits that, yeah, they look like sort of real humans, but then they kind of don't. It's just kind of like, as Uncanny Valley does. So I kind of don't like Black Mesa over the OG as far as that is concerned. But the Black Mesa remake, they did like a whole additional expansion of the second half of the game, which really expanded out the content a lot. And it's like, when I got to that part of the game, like I knew what was coming up, but then it never happened because there was like another 3 or 4 hours of content in between. So I expected to get to a certain section of the game, and it's like, okay, yeah, here it comes. Oh, wait, I don't remember this being in the original game. Well, it turns out it wasn't, because they expanded on the content, but it was like, oh, well, that's neat. They added in a lot more stuff with this remake, which is kind of cool.
Very awesome.
As I recall, originally, the Black Mesa remake was a fan mod project. So I think originally it was free. It was a free mod, and it might still be that. It might still be free. I don't know. Either way, it's a worthwhile purchase and download. If you liked Half-Life, or even if you haven't played Half-Life before, I'd encourage picking it up to experience it like that. Because of the parts that it remakes, it is pretty faithful to it. And if you can't stomach kind of older FPS games, it would probably be a better play than the OG Half-Life is. But me, like, I got a soft spot for OG Half-Life because it was kind of back in the day when I was first getting into PC gaming. So that was one of the first kind of story-based FPSs I played, and it was quite good for the time. So it's like, oh, I remember this. Oh, it's still fun. Great. Warm fuzzies, etc. And one other thing I've played quite a bit of in the past month is Towerfall. Actually, I got back into this because I figured out there was another... How to put it? There was another rank there was another clear rank you could earn by being really good at the game that I just discovered. And I'm like, come on, I can do this. And it turns out I can't, but I'm still going to try to do it.
There you go.
Because apparently, like, and this kind of ties into the title of the round as well, Ascension. Because Towerfall was originally released as one of the big hot games on the Ouya, right? So it's like this huge like co-op experience. Well, not co-op necessarily. This huge versus experience where you get 4 people going versus who's the best archer or whatever, right? And then they released Towerfall Ascension as an expansion to that, which included some co-op elements, where now instead of fighting against each other, you could have up to 4 players playing through this series of enemies, whatever, PvE type thing, which was all well and good. And it turns out that in both the OG Towerfall and then Towerfall Ascension, you could play single player levels, and you would get a certain rank based on how far you cleared or how well you cleared them. And what I didn't know until very recently is that the Ascension side of the levels had one extra rank that I was not aware of by completing the level without ever using a continue and without ever dying. The latter part of which is extremely difficult because there's a lot of bullshit that happens sometimes. So now I've been trying to clear that. It's not going great. And I get very salty sometimes, but it is still a lot of fun. And
it's a classic MrBond experience. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it is kind of pretty classic at this point. Maybe I should stream that a couple times too, because it does get very, very hectic and very fun. And, very cathartic too sometimes, right? Like sometimes you just gotta let a real good string of F-bombs go and you feel better.
Yup.
But yeah, that's what I've been playing the past month.
Awesome.
Hopefully you get some good time in with Tunic too for next time, because there's a lot of good stuff in that game. My goodness. I'll try to work on decoding the language and see what I can come up with. I imagine it'll just take a little bit of time just sitting down and looking at it and being like, oh yeah, hey, these patterns make sense now. But it's kind of hard to do in a way that is stream entertaining, because I have a feeling it's something that I'm going to be writing on dead trees to figure out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that doesn't translate very well to capture, so unless I get a hand
you can
cam
always
or
have
something,
a hand cam,
right? Yeah. Maybe sometime in the future. But all right, I think it's time for some Toonskis Part 2. Now that we've waxed poetic on what we've been playing, let's start off with the remix from Street Fighter 2 entitled Chun-Li, Lady Dragon by Echidna, followed up with a remix from Pac-Man entitled Vice by Great Blakes, and then finishing off with a remix from Star Fox Adventures entitled A Sacred Place by Tremendas.
nobody is going to stay an occasional user very long. This is one game nobody beats. If you use narcotics, before long you'll have the habit. About the hardest in the world to break.
All right, on to the final segment of the show where we do some live ad hoc game design. Last time, we ended up with something that came together extremely well in an extremely rapid fashion, come to think of it. Let me actually pull that up real quick because I do recall it being quite good. We ended up with something, a 1-minute top-down shooter space opera featuring a descent into madness.
Yes.
And we named it Event Horizon, which is also a very good name, in fact, despite names being probably the hardest thing to do about these sorts of things.
Yeah.
So let's see what we roll this
them puns,
time,
at least.
right? Let's see what we roll this time and see if we can get to it. Our system is such that we get 3 shots at it, and we can call each roll as we see fit. We can say, okay, we like the first roll, or we don't like the first roll, let's try the second, or we don't like the second, let's try the third, but we can never go backwards. So if we get to the third roll, that's what we're stuck with.
And we actually have to push the generate button to initiate a roll,
Right.
which also means that on page load, there's a thing that we can't use. Would you like to know what it is?
Sure. Why don't we start with that tonight? What are we not going to be able to do?
All right. The genre is VR.
Okay.
The rule is no enemies.
Okay.
The setting is ancient Rome. And the theme is friendship.
Okay, glad we didn't get that one. That's hard to work with.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be like, I don't know, bug simulator flying through Rome. Magic carpet without the battles. I don't know.
I suppose. Like it's like I will say that there are plenty of games out there that don't have a very overt conflict to it, but I will say that designing such and still making it good is quite difficult. So,
yep.
Glad we didn't get that.
Alrighty. You ready for roll number 1?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's do this.
All right.
Oh no.
We have 2 genres. We have 2 genres, 1 rule, 1 setting, 1 theme. You good?
Yep. Let's go.
All right. Genre number 1 is art game.
Okay.
Not chicory. Can't do that.
Like
genre number
chicory.
2 is sport sim.
Okay.
The rule is 1 room.
Huh. Okay.
Shuffleboard heroes already.
Right.
Yeah. Setting is mafia.
Ooh.
And the theme is war.
Huh. All right.
So you can't do mafia wars either. Sorry.
Damn. All right. Well, I gotta say, I was not enthused by those first 2. One Room and Mafia made it more interesting, but then the generic ass war at the end kind of tanked it. I'm not cool with this one, honestly.
Yeah, nah. This one is very uninspired in my opinion.
Yeah. All right, roll number 2.
All right. 1 of each this time. Huh. Okay, I like this one. You good?
Mm-hmm.
The genre is roguelike.
Hey, all right, starting strong.
Hell yeah. The rule is death is a new beginning.
Naturally.
So it's a roguelike with a twist. The setting is prehistoric.
Huh. Okay.
And the theme is natural disaster.
Okay.
So there's the easy way out, but we can do something other than the dinosaurs dying.
Damn it. This kind of, like, prehistoric theme aside, this makes me think of the dumb We're Back SNES game too.
Oh my god.
I know, right? Oof.
Okay, so that movie scared the shit out of me because of one scene where someone had to give a blood oath.
Oh. Ew. A blood oath.
Yeah, you're talking about We're Back, a dinosaur story,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, in a largely, like, kids ass movie, right? They're swearing blood
so
oaths.
remember like when the main character like went feral because of the big bad in the movie? Like they whatever.
I don't have very clear memories of the movie itself.
I don't either, but I remember that because I was traumatized.
Oh, Oh no.
So there was a like, let me slash your palm with a dagger and your
Oh.
blood contract will save the life of your friend kind of thing.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that being extremely traumatic to a young babby.
Yeah, I saw that in theaters and I was like
Oh wow.
wailing.
Yeah. All right.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, as far as a game about these four things is concerned, I think we could make this work.
Probably so.
Um
I would have to figure out how we can make roguelike and Death is a New Beginning synergize.
I mean,
Unless you're talking
that's
about like literal bones files again.
like that's almost literally what a roguelike is though. Like if we're talking roguelike and not roguelite,
Right.
like death is new beginning regardless. Like you start from nothing. You got whatever you got at the start and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard not to tie this to dinosaurs with prehistoric, I think.
Right.
Especially with natural disaster thrown in. But the other kind of trope-ish prehistoric is cavemen shit, and it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I'm not enamored with that bit. So if you've got other ideas besides those two as far as how to make the thematic element work, like I'd love to hear it too, because
So
like, we could still make this work.
I'm thinking that if we went with the roguelike slash Death is a New Beginning thing and kind of turn roguelike on its head a little bit, it could be interesting. So, for instance, like keeping the world the same, but you start as a different perspective, like a totally different person or creature or something.
Okay.
Doesn't have to start in the same place, but maybe what happens is static, but your ability to impact it changes. So it kind of turns into a time loop game in that respect.
Right. Where in order to progress, you need to do certain things, but some things you cannot do with your present entity, I suppose. So
Now,
you,
actually, since you thought of that, it makes me think of like every time you play an entity, a character, whatever, every time you do that thing once, you can go back to it if you want. So if you figure out like what that thing's like point purpose is, you can eventually go back to like make that thing happen. But if you fail at any point in the process, you have to start over or something like that.
I get you. Now, if you do choose to go back, does that reset the changes that were made originally with your previous plays of that character, entity, whatever?
I think that that would make sense. Like you would have to sacrifice whatever progress you made, but you would have the knowledge of what you need to do with that character you just finished doing for next time.
I see. And
so you would eventually start like writing out your route. And once you had all of the pieces, you have to like bring it all together and say, for instance, like your score is based on how short of a run it is.
okay. Yeah, I could see that. Now,
Like,
would you be able to go back at will, even without, say, completing the end task of that particular entity?
yeah, I think so. Like, if you realize, oh shit, I need to do this first, then yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. So you may not know that you've completed that particular character until maybe you play a different character and realize that that other character has to do something yet?
Yeah. For instance, like you have characters A, B, and C, and while you're playing A, you realize, oh crap, B needed to do this thing for C to have progression. Well, you might go there as B and realize, oh crap, I need to do this other thing as C to get to this thing as B, or even have to go back to go back to character A for the same kind of progression.
Okay. All right. I can see that.
See, the thing about this is that it's really interesting because you can play this like it's a world seed kind of thing. So you can have seeded worlds that always have some way for it to all come together. And if you wanted to have a competition to like figure out how to route things the fastest, it's a built-in randomizer you can
Right?
give a
Yeah.
seed number.
I mean, and it's interesting in that regard too. Like, since this is a roguelike, like this is, random proc gen sort of stuff built in, and if you figure out a way to put all these segments together in at least a somewhat cohesive way, a coherent way, actually, then you've got all sorts of different variations of, oh, I'm going to start with this, run it as far as I can. Oh, I'm going to start with this, run it as far as I can, and then make it with enough iterations or enough different variations of it that there's no really obvious patterns in the beginning. And hopefully, if it's designed well enough, you'll need to make multiple playthroughs of each character, each entity, and it's not just a one and done, unless you get super lucky or you're some kind of prodigy at recognizing these things. So there, okay, yeah.
So I thought of a really interesting way to like use this premise as an interesting, like, say, game charity marathon thing. So you could have one team of, we'll say, like 4 characters are a thing that happens in each one of these seeds, just as an example.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have one team that is just a single person going through all 4 of those scenarios and then piecing it together, versus 4 people playing the same scenario, all starting as a different character. Well, you can't do that because you'd have to unlock. Well, maybe that's not true. Maybe for a mode of the game, you could have all 4 of them unlocked from the get-go and have 4 people go at each one and then compare notes and see if they can come up with a route.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting to see which group would finish first.
Yeah, that would be a more actively competitive mode, to be sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, it sounds like as deep as we are into this, we're going with this set.
Oh yeah, no, this is fantastic.
Okay,
I like
good.
this one.
Great. All right, we are locked into roll number 2 here.
Cool.
So we've covered the first 2 bits pretty well so far. I'm going to skip over prehistoric for now because I want to get to the natural disaster part. Is that our built-in objective, essentially? That you have to complete this thing or do this thing or do this series of things in order to escape this impending natural disaster?
Or find to avoid it from happening.
Right. Okay. Escape or prevent the impending
So I
natural
think
disaster.
like you could go for the speed run of escape it without dying, or you could go for the 100% of finding a way to make it not happen.
Perfect. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. So some of the mechanics we've already kind of laid out. Each death or iteration puts you into a different character, right?
Depending on the mode, yeah.
And then each character's
you could have
actions.
it in such a way where if you play in the normal mode, if you were to play the first character until you found that you needed progression with another one, like you discovered the other character, then you could actually start the run as that character. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's getting too involved.
Well, okay. We could still make that work, though, if we kind of play around with the concept of, or even ignore death in the death is a new beginning part. Because do we want to allow essentially just switching out at will?
I think you would have to start the loop, in quotes, from the beginning to make it fair. Otherwise, you'd just be switching back and forth between characters.
Right, okay. So, death, restart, essentially.
Yeah, so basically, it'd just be restarting whatever the loop is.
But you could do that at any time, essentially. Say, like, okay, I concede this particular character for now. I'll come back to it, but then I have to start anew. I get you.
Maybe, like, make that not be an option at first, but something you discover how to do as you play the game.
Okay.
Like, for instance, you may have to find a way to die to get back to choosing a character again until you find a shortcut or some such. I'm taking inspiration from another game, but I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay. Each character's actions impact the world at large. Okay. That's pretty much what we got through so far. That's good. That's good. Well, players are kind of 1 to question mark.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anywhere from 1 to 4, depending on how you want to play it. If you choose to have a game that has 4 separate characters, which, I mean, that sounds fine.
Right. And then
you could always, like, come up with an advanced mode that can have up to, like, 8 or 16, but that'd be a lot of intertwining stories to have to navigate.
Right. And then I'm going to put this under story or hook. It's seeded worlds. Although the story itself is essentially what the objective is. Escape or prevent the impending disaster.
Yeah.
Okay. Inventory. This sounds kind of like the one we just did last month a little bit, where it's like you pick up whatever you need as you go. Like you start with almost nothing.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, okay. Gather materials as you go.
I'm assuming this would be at least Stone Age.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Because, like, unless we somehow manage to design, like, a pre-Cambrian era roguelike, which I think would be a little dull, just saying, but, yeah.
I think we can allow ourselves that.
That seems good, yeah.
Maybe not quite the Iron Age. It's okay.
Ooh, what about Bronze Age, though?
I mean...
Is that considered... What the hell is prehistoric? Like, what's the definition of prehistoric here? Of or relating to the time or a period prior to recorded history. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Crap.
Uh-huh.
What's the earliest recorded history? Roughly 5,000 years, if we're going according to Wikipedia.
Okay.
So, prior to Sumerian cuneiform script, if that means anything to you.
So that could have been prior to written language.
Yeah. Looks like prior to early Bronze Age.
Okay. So what does that give us to work with?
Stone tools. Stone tools and probably like really crude bronze tools, I would say.
Sure. Like they've figured out that if you take certain materials and apply heat to them, you can make stuff.
Yeah, more or less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to think like prehistory in terms of Chrono Trigger. Like, what could Isla and Kino do?
Right. Yeah.
Like, they had cooking pots and fire and a mastery of weaponry and things like that.
Well, did they have a mastery of weaponry, though? Isla was bare fists all the way.
I thought at some point there was a bow and arrow analog. Maybe not with her specifically.
Not with Isla. That was Marley's weapon of choice, was the bow and arrow.
You're right.
Or the crossbow, rather.
Well, you can always throw magic in as the MacGuffin.
Yeah, you sure could. Sure could. Like, prehistoric could be anything.
I mean, you could find meteorite things and be able to do stuff with them, perhaps. You could make them natural tools or weapons or even things imbued with magical powers if you wanted to, but like, yeah, it's an idea.
Okay. Well, put that down. Meteor. Okay. Meteorite is magic, tools, weapons, etc. That's okay. That kind of introduces an interesting progression, I think, too. Like if we're going the whole like meteor impact as the natural disaster, say, because we're in prehistory times, like the precursor meteorite impacts you can find and do something with to give you your more powerful tools and weapons or something like that.
I got another idea.
Okay.
So, like, what if your characters were in... God damn it, this is getting into Chrono Trigger territory. But, like, if your characters were in different time periods with access to different things, but the choices you make throughout different eras impacts the future enough to make a difference, kind of like the butterfly effect kind of thing going on.
Is that explained well enough by having previous character entity playthroughs effects on the world available to future characters or entities?
I think if you kept the scope in the same rough geographic area, that at least you would have visual clues that way.
Yeah, I think that would almost necessarily need to happen if we're having any sort of interaction between these characters or entities.
Mm-hmm.
Like being able to affect progression in such a way that, oh shit, character 1 didn't do enough, I need to go back and do that for character 2, 3, 4, etc. to progress here.
Like, character 1 could have caused a volcano to explode somehow, and that made character 2 have the ability to have obsidian crafting abilities because obsidian was a thing. And it was
Sure.
localized to that area entirely within your kitchen. Anyway, yeah.
Sure. Or
Just a thought.
Or the lava flow filled in a canyon that you can now cross and get to this next area. Yeah.
Or because of the lava flow, that area became super fertile and they were able to get into farming earlier or something.
Right. Right. I guess it depends on the time scale we're shooting for here too, right? Are we doing let's see, what's the name of that game? ActRaiser-esque advances of time where, oh hey, this advance in this area, oh we finally figured out better food, let's give it to this area over here type thing, right?
I mean, maybe. Now I'm starting to think about like the way that Eternal Darkness did it. Like, you found a way to end a character's story in such a way where you've satisfied what they can do, but you had to overcome some sort of obstacle at the end in order to get the progression to happen.
Okay. I get you.
Let's say if you finish it the first time, it's truncated when you have to go back and do it again. Something like that.
Well, if you do manage to finish it, would you be allowed to go back and do it again? I guess, yeah. We kind of outlined that before, right? You could do it in a shorter fashion and it affects your overall score at the end or something, right?
Yeah, like for instance, you have to find the long way to do it the first time, but a shortcut route becomes available to you after you clear it the full way the first time.
Okay.
And we'd have to make that obvious we'd have to make a very obvious way for that to be a thing when you go back, so it's not like you're hunting for the shortcut the whole time, or you have to go back and do the full version because you can't find the shortcut. I think there would have to be some balance there.
Okay. Yeah, I get you. So each first play of a character route requires a full completion, but can be replayed with discovered shortcuts later. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up the whole Eternal Darkness thing, because that really did do a very good job of previous character affects future character type thing. Maybe not quite in the back and forth that we're talking about for this, but definitely a good start for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right, how about some of the more mundane details of this then? POV audio graphics input.
I'm kind of going back and forth on first or third person. Maybe switchable.
Depending on...
I don't really feel like this would do too well with top down. Because you're really trying to use your full field of view to see anything that looks out of place. Or like it might give you a path forward or some such.
Yeah. I agree. I think the thing that gives me pause about that is like a full environment like that is harder to randomize, I guess.
Sure.
In more varied and not necessarily more interesting ways, but in more varied ways, really.
I mean, we could take the isometric approach and absolutely borrow from Tunic's mechanics there.
It would definitely need a lot of iteration, I think, on the generation side of things to make it interesting. Or not necessarily interesting, to make it work, first of all, and then to make it varied enough to be interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Let's go with isometric then. Hell, why not?
Sounds good.
It's both on our minds for now.
That has all sorts of abundant ways to hide shortcuts for future use.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fucking secrets within secrets.
Yeah. Something rotating cubes, etc.
I was annoyed by that one. Come on.
Took us a little bit.
Okay, you got through it too, though, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, actually, I should say I wasn't annoyed so much by the puzzle itself, but by the way it was transposed a little bit from what I expected.
Sure.
Ugh. Whatever.
Once you figured it out, you had to do it in a certain amount of time, and yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't think I realized the time aspect of it, but there's just
a thing where we wrote things down, and then
oh, I just had the whole reversal of things in my mind for that for some reason, but whatever.
Gotcha.
Okay, I mean, audio style is kind of unimportant here, I think.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing
ambient,
the whole
whatever.
deep audio cue stuff.
Audio puzzles, my favorite.
Yeah. Are they your favorite though? Like, I figured that you would like them a lot considering your background.
I mean, what can I say? There are things that I am more naturally attuned to, pun sort of intended.
Okay, fair. All right, that leaves us with input method, which again, also not particularly important, I don't think.
Not really.
Like standard gamepad input. I don't know.
I want to say something and I can't.
Fine. I'll just truncate that to standard input. Player's choice.
You have a controller.
Right.
Do things with it.
Player's choice. Whatever. What's strike through in a Google Docs here? Because I like using strike through to imply jokes here.
Highlight, right click, formatting. I don't know.
Control Shift S. Ah, damn, that's something else. Okay, whatever.
I don't know.
Do they even have a thing for strike through?
Be rude.
Formats, text. There
they
it
do.
is.
It's Alt Shift 5.
Alt Shift 5. What the hell, Google?
At least that's what it is on.
Yeah.
Mine.
That's what it said on mine as well. But all right.
Okay.
Visual puns that only really make sense if you're watching the multimedia version of this, and or reviewing the show notes later, I guess.
Yes. Show notes.
Right. I'll
It's
get to
kind of
him.
tempting to bring it up as my OBS virtual camera, but nah. People can be left to think.
Right. Stonk. Which then leads us to the most difficult of everything, naming the damn thing.
Oh, let's see here.
Like, this is tempting to me to go back on the Chrono Trigger thing and just call this Lavos, but, whatever. That's a really
Project
bad...
Lavos.
That's a really bad cop-out, and I would not feel good about leaving it there.
Okay, so you know how Lavos lived underground for millennia, etc.? And how we are also talking about eternal darkness?
Yeah,
The first thing that popped in my head after, pondering Lavos, the name for a moment, was deep into that darkness peering.
Oh, no.
Long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting.
Good Lord.
I will never forget that opening to Eternal Darkness, but, why does that...
I don't know.
Deep into that darkness. There you go.
Yeah, I think it, if you want a subtitle, you can finish it with that whole phrase thing. But it might work.
You're such
fine.
a poet.
Ugh, gross. Hate it. Thanks, I hate it. Oops.
I mean, we can't just call it Into Darkness because Star Trek would
work.
get very upset with you. But yeah.
Plus, it's a very specific darkness. It's that darkness.
It is. That one right there.
Emphasize that a little bit more with a little underline.
All right. This worked out.
Okay. I mean, I kind of pushed us towards some more mundane things. Is there anything more interesting about this game that we need to cover?
I don't think so. I think leaving it open-ended for now is going to allow us to make stylistic changes as we kind of get through iterating.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of potential. So I think leave the style decisions kind of open-ended for now.
Okay. That sounds good. I think we've been taking that approach more often, more recently, which works better.
I'm not going to spoil things, but when you get a certain item in Tunic, well, obviously you're going to figure out, but the caption is a gun? That's not something you see in the Bronze Age, but I mean, you could just find random shit like that. Who knows?
Is that what the text was that appeared when you get said item?
I'm pretty sure.
That's hilarious.
It has the good interrobang at the end there.
Okay, great. Perfect. Because I definitely had that same sort of reaction when I picked up that item. I'm just like, oh, shit.
I'm not 100% if I'm remembering that properly, but I'm fairly certain it's correct.
I don't know. If I go back and rewatch some of my stuff in that, I could probably find that period of time and be like, oh, yeah, that's what it said. All right. Okay, cool. Well, I think then we will call that design complete.
Hell yeah.
And say that it worked out very well yet again. Good job, us.
Yay. Okay, cool. Thank you for verifying, Vlad. So now I guess you get a tiny hint. There you go. There's your tiny language hint.
Okay, very good. I will probably not remember, but very good.
It's okay. So, would you like to know what roll 3 would have been?
Sure. Whilst we're here still.
One of each. The genre, farming. The rule, leave something behind. The setting, high fantasy. The theme, power fantasy.
Okay. Interesting confluence of things there.
Yeah, a little bit.
I guess we still could have made that work, but I do like our present one better.
Yes. I strongly agree. And it seems like we always just kind of like happen into the best one with like a notable exception or two. So I'm glad that we have the intuition to know that we can make something good with what we roll.
Yeah, for sure. Unless we get to the third roll, at which point it's just like, well, all right, this is what we got.
We're making a monster dating game,
Yeah,
I guess.
Here we are. This is our lives now.
Yep, pretty much.
Oh boy. Well, anyways, I'm real proud of us with this one. This is good. This is good shit.
Yeah, definitely. Strong agree.
Okay, well that brings us to the end of insert credits round 103 here. Any final closing thoughts? Otherwise we can wrap.
I think we're good to go.
Excellent. Well, thank you once again, everybody, for joining us for insert credits. I'm MrBond.
And I'm Tormod.
We'll leave you with our typical closing track, a remix from Mario Kart Wii entitled Wind in Your Hair by Overclocked University. Good night, everybody.
Ciao.